The energy standard of payment unit security, it basically differs, say, from the gold standard. What is the difference? How was the gold standard defined? Here is a piece of paper or some or other account. The amount in the account is non-cash. In accordance with the denomination of this account or piece of paper, you have the right to claim a certain amount of gold at the bank, either in monetary form or in the form of an ingot. So the gold standard in this form is equivalent to the tariff for electricity consumption or the price of gasoline per column. I drive up, I show a piece of paper, pour myself 10 or 20 liters, that's it, off I go. And how is the energy standard introduced? The energy standard is introduced as the ratio of the annual volume of electricity generation to the volume of money supply, which operates serving commodity circulation exchange on an annual cycle. Why it is introduced this way is because if you get into the equation of the inter-industry balance, it turns out that the rate of flow of money through the industry is determined by the length of the technological cycle in each industry. If, for example, you have a watch manufacturing company and it does not work at the limit of its capacity, then everything is simple. You order a batch of watches, the manager gives a command, production begins. It takes a day or two, and you will receive a batch of watches. And in agriculture, how does it go? I want this kind of wheat. First question, is there enough seed material for this variety? Let's say there is. When can we sow it? If it grows in winter, then next autumn. And if during this time the head of the central bank prints a large amount of money, or conversely does not print a lot, then the industries with fast cycles will be able to adapt, land on their feet. And the industries with long technological cycles, they will not be able to. So if we analyze this issue, it turns out that if the emission rate exceeds the dynamics of growth of production capacities of industries in real production accounting, then the breakdown of economic relations occurs due to the fact that the purchasing power of the working capital in industries does not correspond to their production capacities. And how to decide which emission is acceptable and which is not? Well, if the law of conservation of energy is expressed in all technologies, then the reality is that you cannot, with all your desire, get more production from the economy than you put energy there. And accordingly, you can build such a chain. The mass of goods produced in a year is a kind of personification of the energy that was put into production. And what kind of money supply served the commodity circulation in the process of production and consumption of this commodity mass? Well, a certain, definite one. If the economy functions steadily, then they divide the volume of electricity generation on the basis of which the commodity mass was obtained by the amount of money. And then we know that if, for example, we have an economy's energy potential growth rate of 5% per year, the economy could maybe sustain an emission of 6% per year, but the economy cannot sustain an emission of 10 to 20% per year, because the breakdown of economic relations will begin. And this is the fundamental difference between the energy standard and the gold standard, because the energy standard is just characteristic and the control index. Compliance with it, it guarantees that there will be no imbalances in the economy, assuming that governance at the macro level is adequate. The collapse of the gold standard is analogous to the following example. Have we consumed energy? Yes, we have. Well, a frost hits. What do people do? They all turn on their electric stoves at once. What happens next? The power kicks out. And the gold standard works exactly the same. When the economy meets with some turmoil, people understand that some pictures are drawn on a piece of paper that do not represent value, and that value is in gold. So, everyone rushes to the banks to exchange those pieces of paper for gold. This is a direct analog. But if we build a financial system based on the energy standard, then a collapse of such a tariff nature is impossible. In essence, the gold standard is a tariff, while the energy standard is not. And besides this, they confuse such a thing as the price list invariant. That is the standard that one considers prices in. So, the price list invariant, this is initially a commodity that has some utility in itself, outside of sales transactions. Such were all the goods of the monetary group in the era of barter trade. Grain, livestock, then precious metals appeared. They had some kind of utility outside the transaction, and in transactions they acted as an intermediary product. Because, for example, if you have, well, a set of scythes to cut the grass, and you need a boat to fish, then the chain of exchange of a set of scythes for a boat is not predictable on the market. But if there is an intermediary product, then everything is fast. So what we have is an intermediary product. It can be called a price list invariant, because all prices are expressed in its quantity, and its price is always per unit. From the moment that the gold standard was gone, the price list invariant almost definitely disappeared with it. And in world trade, its place was taken by the dollar. And now it is believed that money is whatever society accepts as money. And here we are talking about the fact that if one wants to govern the economy in the interests of society, then one needs to solve the problem of modeling economic development. Scientific and technological progress is unpredictable. We do not know on the basis of what technologies the products will be produced, for example, 20 years from now. But it will somehow be produced. What do we know? And what can we calculate? We can calculate how much time it will take with current technologies in order to reach a certain level of production in all sectors. What is the easiest to consider? What is invariable? The invariable is the kilowatt hour. And if we choose a ton of standard fuel as a price list invariant, that is a certain amount of energy or kilowatt hours directly, then we can calculate the economic dynamics in energy invariant prices. This will give us a strategic forecast, and in the course of real governance, well, it will already be necessary to adjust the balance of payments in a multi-industrial system to specific technologies, those which exist and those which will exist. The range of products will be updated. That is, all scientific and technological progress in this case goes into the reserve for the sustainability of the plan. That is, those indicators that you planned based on new technologies will be achieved earlier, or what you planned will be achieved with higher quality. But this is again a question. What is meant by quality? Because there are two mutually exclusive evaluations of product quality. The first, the product is long-lasting, durable. The second, the product is fashionable, trendy. The groans of fashion change endlessly, and what was fashionable yesterday costs nothing today. Now, if the quality criterion is latest fashion grown, then the problems of society can never be solved. If we apply such a science as ergonomics, this is the science of the correspondence between the subjects of the technosphere and the technosphere as a whole, human physiology and psychology. Then the principle of long-lasting, durable products ensures guaranteed satisfaction of all life needs of the whole society. Why? Because if the product is ergonomic, then using it is comfortable. It does not irritate and there is no desire to get rid of it. Then it makes perfect sense to make a house that will stand for 500 years. Then it makes sense to build roads on which the surface need not be retarred for 20 years. It would be possible to change the standards and the general philosophy of designing many types of equipment, because if the equipment lasts for decades, then in all likelihood there should be some kind of service maintenance. And as a consequence of this service maintenance, scientific and technological progress should raise the quality of this technology to a higher level. This is a different system of standards, a different philosophy of production and consumption. Now, if the issue of universal employment is being solved, having reduced the working day to 4 to 5 hours, and modern technology and energy potential can ensure that all the needs of society are satisfied in this mode of operation, then many do not know how to answer the question, how to occupy this newly freed up time, and what to do. Communicating with friends, raising children, these are actually not previously included in their circle of interests. Or communication with friends? This is just a bottle on the table, some snacks spread around, a nice visit.
Хорошо посидели.